Hi guys, so I wanted to do a little bit of a review on the Leekeworld Art Body. So I now have a Rosemary and a Ariana with the art body from Leekeworld. I like the body. I'm not a huge fan of the hip joints though. They do have a locking mechanism, but they only go so far up. The hip joints are sculpted straight into the body, so you can't really dislocate like you normally would for a little bit more motion. I can imagine the hips are that way just to make them a little more sturdy when they're standing, but she does tend to buckle at her ankles. Like there's a lot of weight with the head and just the upper body in general. Like she's hard to stand up. I can imagine if you had a pair of boots with a harder leather, like it would help brace that. I've had to do that with some of my other dolls before. But she's a little thicker sometimes, so even some MSD boots would be a little tight around her legs. But both her wrists and her ankles have really good rotation and mobility. Overall, they have this little ball inside there, like the ball is not attached to the actual foot. So that's kind of neat. She is single jointed at her knees and her elbows. And that's all the further up her legs can go. Because the head is so large, she is very top heavy. I did do some hot glue sueding and it ended up helping it out a lot, and you can see later on the differences because I haven't done anything with my Ariana. You can see the difference in how she can hold a pose a lot better with her neck or even her upper bust joint. I am a fan of the higher waisted joints. To me, you have a little more expressive posing with them, like you make them slouch a lot better and it looks more natural. They are really good slouchers, but her head just makes her whole, that joint just kind of rotate, flop over to the side too. For a single jointed doll, she has pretty good mobility in her arms. She can touch her face, and a lot of it is in the wrist. Like I did wire her at some point, trying to get her elbows to bend more, but her body is kind of heavy, so it's a little hard for even the wire to kind of work and give that little bit of extra extension too. Well, naturally her arms, when you put them up, they can touch like the top of her face, but you can dislocate them a little bit and the hand will help prop it out so she can touch her lower half too. But like her feet, her hands just bend beautifully. They're awesome to pose. They do have a little locking mechanism on the ball too. I am really happy with the hands. I think they're pretty good. They're a little unrealistic in some of the movements that they make, but overall they're pretty nice. I do like the upper waist joint. When she slouches, you know, it's very obvious. Like I've had a lot of other dolls where it's almost like why even bother with the joint because it's just very little mobility in it, but she has full rotation and you know, it creates for some pretty nice posing. I have at times kind of slingshot back and forth on how I felt about the overall body, but I'm pretty happy with them now. I look forward to furthering to develop their looks. Every doll is different, and to me it kind of helps seeing a lot of the owner pictures and whatnot, but sometimes there aren't a lot out on some of the dolls. Like I like to see how a body poses and how it moves first. Like you can look at the joints and you can tell normally if they're single jointed or double jointed and kind of guess how they're gonna pose, but you don't really know until you're actually handling it. So I kind of wanted to do these videos at least help other people. Maybe they're interested in getting one but just weren't decided on it. She is beautiful and I'm happy. I think Leekworld does a really good job on their products, and they have great customer service, and they've been really fast for me to ship and even get back to me when I do the layaway payments and whatnot. In this video, I had her wired right now, and she did get, like, laying down, she could overextend her legs a little bit more, and it helped dislocate them, so she got a little bit more range out of her knees. But like the wire I was using, like, I probably could have used more of a solid core wire. I was using braided wire that I had already laying around for my back of my paintings to hang them. Like, I had smaller gauge ones I'd used on my Radical, and it worked amazing for her. But with the art body, it's a little heavy, the thicker pieces, and I think it was just more awkward for it. I'd use a thicker gauge. But there honestly wasn't that much of a difference in posability when adding the wire. I ended up just taking it out. I did even put it up through her mid-joint and even through her neck, and it did help a little bit. Like, she wasn't as wobbly, but when it came to holding a pose, it's not like it was that spectacular. I don't think it was worth it. Overall, I don't think the art body, mainly because of the legs, is a really great poser, but you can get some really beautiful poses, and if you like it, I think it's totally worth it. For me, the mid-joint kind of makes up for what the legs lack. You have more expressive poses, just standing or sitting. Like, right now they're sitting on my shelf and you're just kind of slouched, but, you know, you can arch it back and create something a little more perky too, and it's pretty nice. Because of her weight, I often have hard times getting them to sit unsupported. You just need to find that right balance. You can see here the wiring just really did nothing for her elbows whatsoever. They helped a little bit in the legs, but the elbows just kept snapping back to where they wanted to be. After watching this, though, like, I think the wiring did help a lot, like in her neck and the upper body part, because she does look a lot stiffer. But it just didn't feel like it did that much. The hot glue sueding ended up working out so much better for her to at least hold the poses. The lighting is really bad in this one, but I wanted to get better comparison after the hot glue sueding. Like, I bend her head and she pretty much stays there, and I can even bend the mid-joint to an opposite direction, and I'm bending her head, and you know, it worked out a lot better. You got a lot more range and posability out of it, for me anyway. With hot glue, her upper body joint also worked beautifully too. And you can see on my Ariana, I have not done anything with her yet, and she's just floppy, just like Rosemary was. She was strung a little tighter when I got her than Rosemary was, but both of them I ultimately did have to tighten her strings quite a bit. They were just way too loose, and it did help a little bit more with the posing too. But it's just so hard to make them keep a pose with that head the way it is. I was trying to pose her head the opposite of what I was doing with her mid-joint, and she just kept snapping right back down to where the mid-joint was pointed. Her head just snaps really fast when she falls. No, I love the big heads on these guys paired with the bodies. Like, I'm not a fan of the little heads on the bodies. Like, Michaela, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. But they kind of just reminded me of my art. I normally do smaller busted women and bigger butts and big heads and eyes. So they just kind of appealed to me. They really are beautiful dolls. Like I said, what they lack in their hips for me, like, I think they make up for a little better with their mid joint. I wish their legs would go up a little more, but you know, that's just not normally the way ball joint dolls work. You always have something in them that makes them good, and then something else that you're just not a fan of, but it is what it is. It's mostly just a personal preference thing too. There's so many different artists and sculptors working from doll to doll in each brand, and it's nice to actually see a doll in movement before you'd actually buy it. Well, thanks for watching. Sorry if I rambled a little bit too much. I'm not really good at talking and these type of things. If you were thinking about getting one of these dolls, hopefully I shed a little light on how they move overall. Everyone always has their own opinions on what they want in a doll, so maybe it helped. I personally always want the widest range of motion for the joints, and normally double jointed, but you know, it doesn't mean anything if I don't like the sculpt, so. But thanks for watching, hope to see you again. I should be doing a review on the Doll Zone 29cm double jointed female body.